Thanks for sharing. Okay. All right, would you rather elevation worship or Bethel worship? So thumbs up for elevation. If you prefer Bethel, then no need to put reaction. Wow. Okay, seems like most people prefer Bethel. I think if Matthias Wang was here, he'll probably thumbs up for elevation, right? Okay. Okay, would you rather serve at youth service or serve at main service? By the way, if you look at this picture, right, it's quite interesting. The lady on the second lady, right, in the picture on the youth service, right, actually Jermaine Yap. This was, I think, about 12 years ago, before she had kids. Yeah, and today she's back joining the worship team again. Yeah. So, okay, thumbs up at youth service. Okay, maybe because our age group, I mean, most of the people serving at the main, yeah. Okay, would you rather be a worship leader or a cell leader? Or pastor like youth service, okay. Most people prefer to be a cell leader. Very good. We have a lot of cell leader now. Okay, Ben likes worship leader. Okay. Why not both? Yes, both. Okay. Okay, and the last question. I think it's the last question. Would you rather be worship pastor or superstar singer? Wow, Derek wants to be a worship pastor. Okay. Worshipper, okay. Okay. Hey, fun fact. I used to lead worship with JJ Lim when we were in JC. Yeah. Last time he was serving as a keyboardist and worship leader. So it's quite interesting. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for your participation. So then just to break the ice to get the ball rolling. Okay, so maybe I can do a quick sharing on my own personal journey. I think there were some questions that were asked, and one of the questions being asked was, what was my journey like as a how did I come into becoming a worship leader? Right. So I thought I would share this. Okay, so I came to know, maybe to start from the beginning, right? I came to know the Lord when I was 15 years old, when I was invited to LSBC, which was back in Pasir Panjang Hill. And at 16, I started to learn the guitar because I think I was bored one day, and I asked my elder brother to teach me some chords. Bear in mind, those days there's no YouTube, so basically it's really just learning from someone who probably could play the guitar. Yeah, and it just happened that we had some chord book, I mean the chords at home. So I asked my brother to teach me some chords, and so with some basic G, C, D, E minor chords, right, I started to practice. And I can't remember why. I think there was the LSBC worship songbook. Yeah, I can't remember who bought it. Yeah, and it was at home, so I just took it and then just play. And I think the first song that I learned to play was Power of Your Love. Yeah, you know the song, Lord, I come to you. Okay, so that was I think the first song I could play with the basic G, C, D, E minor, and maybe A minor chords. Yeah, so subsequently, I started playing guitar for the youth cell. Last time, there's only one youth cell. The church was only 180 people. Then you know, right? Yeah. So the few of us, the teams, the youth ministry was probably only about 10 people, 10, 15 people. Yeah, and I wanted to show this picture because okay, this is not when I was in my youth, when I started leading worship. This is when I'm still playing guitar. So this is my very first guitar, yeah, which was an Applause. Okay, it's the cheaper brand of the Ovation guitars. All right, and this picture was taken when I was serving in chapel as a guitarist in JC. So I mentioned earlier on, right, fun fact, right, I used to serve together with JJ Lin in the worship band. Unfortunately, I don't have this picture in this so you just gotta take my word for it. Okay. And all right, so I think moving forward, I think I first served in the adult worship team as a drummer, guitarist, okay, between year 2000 and 2002. So this is me in the drums, and this is Pastor Adrian, yeah, but he has left the church many years ago. So I think okay, let me see who's here. Then right. Yeah, I think nobody else who is in that era. Okay, so basically, right, I wasn't a very good drummer. And I always cannot swam my people, my bassists. I say, hey, can you play in time or not? Yeah, so even though I tried to laugh it off, at times, try to, okay, it's okay. Then, actually, I felt quite lousy at times inside. Yeah, so subsequently, right, I just switched to playing the guitar. I mean, not that I switched, people, they transfer me to just play guitar full time. Okay, so no longer playing drums, okay, because not very happening. Okay, and then around year 2002 onwards, I started lead worship at Youth Church. And okay, this picture I chose because this was the recording of the album Presence. Yeah, back then there was this very big initiative, right, to cut an album. The youth ministry had to cut a worship album now. Okay, so very immature, but okay, I think it was the pride and sweat of our labor. Okay, so and I started to lead worship, right, at the English service, the adult service, right, in I think year 2006. Okay, so what happened was that our ex-elder Daniel Lim, right, he was supposed to lead worship on one Sunday, but he could not make it. So he just asked me to take over him. Back then, not so stringent, the process not so stringent one. Yeah, so and that's how I became a worship leader in the English service. I don't know what you call it. It's a 误打误撞 incidental kind of thing, but okay, I mean, I see yes, it's no one is there by chance. So that's how I became a worship leader. Probably in today's standard, right? Probably cannot make it. I probably won't be able to become a worship leader, go through that. Okay, so yeah, so the next few pictures just to show some of the people I've served with over the years and who are still serving. And interestingly, if you look at this picture, there's Li Yan, who is now in Chinese church, and actually I'm also at Chinese church now serving together with her. So it's quite funny. I just told her, hey, recently, hey, we have come on full circle. Yeah, from youth now to Chinese church. Yeah, and this was taken in 2008. You will see some familiar faces, the younger elder James, the younger elder Kevin, Tina. Yeah, and okay, John is still here. Melvin Gunn, elder DSP, Melvin used to be also worship leader. Yeah, so over the years we have grown and expanded. 2015, more people have joined. We have a full set choir, and we have a younger and much slimmer Matthias Wang here. Yes, and this picture was taken in 2019. I think this is the last group photo I have before COVID hit. Yeah, so I thought it was meaningful to share this picture to see how the ministry has grown. Of course, this is not all the ministry strength, but it's to show that we have really grown a lot over the years. Yeah. Okay, so that's my journey as a worship leader, and now I'll just hand the time over to Pastor Susan for this session of Ask Me Anything. Yeah.
Okay. Now that's all. So simple, huh?
Okay. Leave more time to the question, Ma. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, before we had this, plan this event, right? This Igniting Worship. I just want to give some background. What is this? This kind of Zoom session is about. It's because we would love to see the younger ones amongst us, or the newer ones amongst us, to learn more about worship, not just about your theological aspect, but to learn from the lives of a worshiper like Boon Yeow, or even the previous session was Elder James, who shared his journey and how God led them to be where they are and serving the Lord in the worship ministry. So now for this series 2, we invited Boon Yeow. I would love to see more people come on subsequently. There will be another one probably in November. That will be shared by Tina. So, I thank Boon Yeow for giving us a little snapshot of his life journey. And there are actually, prior to this plan of this Zoom, I've actually asked a few of our worship members, the younger ones, some questions. Okay, so that there are some questions that they had already prepared in advance for me to ask Boon Yeow, so that we can learn from him. Okay, so the very first question was from let me see. From our dear Amos, since he's appearing there, he asked this very good question. He want to ask Boon Yeow, between Martin, Taylor, Gibson, which is the best acoustic guitar? So Boon Yeow, all to you, okay? Amos is here, he can hear your answers.
Okay, so I want to qualify. I'm not an expert. Okay, so I mean, this is just sharing. So it's my personal experience and journey. So, okay, so Martin, Taylor, Gibson, which is the best? Okay, I would say in my 20s it will be Taylor. In my 30s it's Gibson, and now that I'm in my 40s, okay, I would say Martin is the best. Okay, so all right, just aside. Okay, as with all instruments, the choice of guitar is very subjective. All right. In terms of the tone, the playability, the aesthetics of the guitar. So even two guitars of the same make, right, and model will have very different characteristics. Agree? Yeah. So I mean, like so I said in the 20s, I said why I would say Taylor, because when I was in my 20s, my dad bought me my first so-called expensive guitar. That was a Taylor 514. It's a second-hand guitar. Yeah, but I cherish it a lot. I mean, to spend 2,000. I think it was $2,000+ on a guitar. It was quite a sum of money, lah. Yeah, but I saw it as an investment, and I would say Taylor is very playable. The neck is very playable. It's very easy to play. So for someone who is looking for a new guitar, if you're starting out, if you have the funds, okay, I would suggest a Taylor guitar. Why I say a Gibson in my 30s? Okay, this is purely once again my point of view. Is that I was looking at something which will give me because I'm more of a strummer. Yeah, so the Gibson that I had was a hummingbird. And of course, the hummingbird looked very nice. There was this pickup with the hummingbirds. Okay, so because it's subjective, right? I mean, it may look very good to me, but maybe to other people, it may not be very nice. Yeah. But I graduated from the Gibson because, I don't know, somehow the Gibson, the wood was very heavy. And so when I lead worship, right, sometimes after I lead worship, I go home, like my whole back, right, and neck and shoulder will be very, very tired. I don't know, is it because it's an age thing or what, but I was in my 30s. So yeah, and now that I'm in my 40s, okay, I don't know. I mean, I think last time John Sang used to say, why not get Martin guitar? Back then I was thinking Martin looks very boring, and I just felt that Martin was something that you needed. I mean, I read that you needed to take care of, because the wood, the way it's being made, and our climate here, right? You need to really take care of it. So I didn't really pay much attention to it. But of course now as I grow older, I mean, I have the means to sort of like take care of guitars, for example, buying a dehumidifier. Yeah, so I thought that okay, maybe I can invest in the Martin. And I somehow like the tone of it as well. So I'm very happy with the playability, the tone of my Martin D18, and the simplicity of its looks. Now I like simple, classic, yeah. So it's just me getting older and my tastes have changed. Yeah. Thanks.
Sound like you're like wine, right? Sound like drinking wine. It aged along the way. Okay, thanks, Boon Yeow. Now I have another question for you. So you understand what is Gibson, Martin, and Taylor, right? They are referring to acoustic guitar. In case you think it's some wine, it's not wine. Okay, so that's from Boon Yeow. Okay, then the next question was Brandon, who is also here with us. His question is, what is an event or experience that impact you as a worship leader? Let me put it.
Okay, this question, I thought very hard and long about it. So okay, maybe I can just share from the perspective of an event. So in 2010, I actually went for Hillsong conference in Sydney. Yeah, that was probably the best time of my life, because that was a period of time where I went overseas with my wife to do my masters, and also we didn't have kids yet, so we were living a very carefree life. So we went to this conference. First time I go to a Hillsong conference. We can share a picture of it. Yeah, can you see this? This is a Hillsong conference. Very happening one lah. The whole stadium, just packed with people. The music was fantastic, and the speaker was great. And in a way, I named my son after the speaker lah. It was Judah Smith. That time he was much younger, and then of course there was TD Jakes. So if you can see this picture, I'm not sure if it's clear. This person is Israel Houghton. Yeah. So he led worship together with, there were also other, of course, the Hugh Song Band. There was also Tim Hughes there. Yeah, so if you ask me what this was an event that left a mark in my life, because I mean the fact that I can actually talk about it and still remember about it, and that the whole thing about people coming together to worship God in one place. But I chose this particular picture also because I'm just reminded that I'm not sure about you if you know about it, but Israel Houghton, I think in recent years in a way I think he was in adultery, yeah, and he's fallen from grace lah. And it just reminded me that even as a worship leader, how dangerous it can be for one to fall into sin, and even someone who is very prominent, who may be very up there, who writes fantastic songs, and the story of Israel Houghton is very interesting. In a way, I can sort of like relate to it. Was that he started as a drummer. He's a fantastic drummer, but one day he became a worship leader because the pastor said, "Hey, you're promoted to being a worship leader already. Yeah, we just want you to be the worship leader." I mean, in a way, I'm not saying I'm Israel Houghton, by the way. I'm just saying that I saw certain parallel that, okay, actually my journey was something like that. Yeah. And it's also a reminder to myself to guard myself against such possibility of falling into pride, into sin, into this danger that that anybody is susceptible to, even worship leaders of their standing. Yeah. So this is what I've chosen to share.
Okay, thank you. Right, now another question. Let me go and become another one. Since you talk about the element of pride, so this is what Jermaine would like to ask you. Is that how can you guard ourselves against pride while serving in the worship ministry?
Okay. Okay, so the Bible speaks very clearly. I think God really despises pride. Proverbs 6:16 to 19. I think there's 7 traits that God despises. The very first that comes up is haughty eyes, which is pride. So, and if I can put it in layman terms, right, pride becomes sinful. Okay, there are things, I mean that I think we need to define what pride is, right? I mean, we can say that we are proud of something, but it can be a positive kind of pride. But I think in Jermaine's question is more of like negative, the pride that we talk about. So, and the pride which God despises. So pride becomes sinful when it becomes excessively self-focused and self-elevating. That means we put ourselves, right, above God, yeah, above other people. Yeah, we think that we are the best, or things like that. And at the same time, it is something which is very subtle and very difficult to identify. Yeah, if I ask you, you think you're proud or not? Probably you may or may not have an answer to that. Yeah. I mean, if you say that, I don't think I'm proud, then it's come across that you are not being humble already, right? So so it's something which is difficult to really pinpoint and identify. So maybe I can give some example. What I think from my perspective, what pride is. So for example, one aspect will be like maybe when our egos get bruised. Yeah, like when for example, in the context, let's say when I lead worship, then when I'm leading worship and doing the practice, somebody points out something which maybe I don't really agree with. Yeah, but I feel that no, I want it my way. Yeah, even though it may not be the best, but it's something that I want to do. So I think pride is something that we should think that you know better, or you don't consider how other people's feedback. And of course, feedback once again can be constructive or negative, right? Yeah, so we have to really discern. We need to think about it. But my point is, rather than to just dismiss it totally, yeah. Or when we receive praise from people, so sometimes maybe after lead worship, some people will text me or come and say, "Oh, that was a good worship. You did well." So does it mean that I cannot feel good about it? Does it mean that I'm being prideful? I mean, yeah. So I think it's okay. I mean, personally, I think it's okay to feel good about it. But at the same time, what I would do is that I will always attribute glory and to God. Yeah, that thank you for encouraging me. Thank you for edifying me. All glory to God. It's all about Him. Yeah, and I will try better. I'll do better. I'll continue to do well. Yeah. So laying that foundation, then how? I mean, answering the question, how do we how to guide ourselves, right? Right. And like I mentioned, sometimes it's very subtle. Sometimes we also don't know. So I think what I feel like, or what I've read up is really to focus, to give God the credit, to focus more on God than on yourself. Because coming back to the definition of what pride is, right, is that it is excessive focus on oneself, putting yourself above God. So I think the most important thing always, right, is to always give God the credit, focus on Him, and then on ourselves, then our abilities. Serve others and celebrate their success. So I'm just being very open and authentic here. I want to share that there are times that when I will look at worship leaders, I would think maybe I could have done better, maybe I could have sung better, maybe I could have done this song in a particular way. But then I'll be reminded that hey, that's not right, lah. Yeah. Rather than that, we should really celebrate their success, celebrate what they have done, and to cheer them on. Yeah, especially the younger ones. Yeah. And I see a lot of younger ones, young worship leaders that are up and coming, and they are really doing fantastic in the ministry. Yeah. So to me, right, it's really to not focus so much on myself, but really to give thanks to God for raising these people up and then cheering them on and celebrate their success. So a third point would be to account to someone, give people permission to point out pride in our life. Yeah. So allowing ourselves to be open. I mean, we don't have to tell everybody, hey, can you point out pride in my life? I mean, but I think we can tell a select few people who we trust, people who we know we are comfortable to account to and share with. Yeah. So these are some ways, I guess, we can guard ourselves against pride.
Okay, thanks, Boon Yeow. Actually, for myself, even as a worship pastor, when I see Boon Yeow or even Ben or Amos or even James lead worship, when I see them flourish and do really actively, passionately bring people in the presence of God through their worship. I always say this: their success is always my reward. Yeah, I'm always very happy because all of you, if you are successful as a worship leader, it really makes me feel satisfied. Because to see you all succeed, it is a joy to me. Yeah. Okay. Can we move on to another question? Before I ask further, sorry, I know my voice is a bit weird, and I'm trying to hold back a cough as well. Any of you had any questions before I want to proceed on? Any of you have any questions that you would like to ask Boon Yeow directly? Yeah, if you want to, you just unmute yourself and share, okay? So I give you a moment to think through. If any questions that you want to ask Boon Yeow?
Yeah, feel free to ask. Okay, if you're shy, you can type in the chat box.
Yeah. Anyone? Any one of you, the newbies like Derek, Jermaine, who joined us again, William, Alfred, really the younger ones who have just joined the ministry. Alfred should have joined almost a year already. Yeah. The rest of you, anyone?
Maybe I have a question.
Okay,
I think
go
this
ahead,
is
Derek.
in relation to like there may be days where like you can feel very burnt out. So like how do you actually overcome that? Like do you like focus on like quiet time with the Lord to get your resupply, or how do you kind of alleviate those feelings or emotions so that you can just dutifully like serve like your duty for that Sunday or that service?
Okay, Derek, thanks for that question. So we have actually a similar question, right, Pastor Susan, in light of that. Yeah, so I mean, maybe I can bring that two questions together. The question was like, in many years of service, was there a time where worship became a job to me or a chore? Like something you will do, week in, week out, and even when you feel like you are tired or burnt out. Okay, yeah. So to be honest, right, I've never felt that worship leading was a job or a chore. To me, it's something it's just something that I'm very passionate about and enjoy doing. And also maybe because I didn't have to like week in, week out lah. It's like, you see some of our team members, they do so. I think Pastor Susan at a period of time also, because I think on manpower issue, she had to serve at multi-meet, she had to serve at Chinese church, she had to serve at English church. So yeah, so for me, right, I never really had that sense of like burnout in worship leading. But to expand the question further, maybe we should look at it at not just in the perspective of serving in worship ministry per se, but serving in general. Yeah, for example, okay, so this is, I'm trying to relate to this question, right? For example, serving as a cell leader, personally, okay, there are some days that I really felt that leading cell was a chore and I didn't want to serve anymore. Like, like like I would think, wow, today is our day again. Okay, I need to put on my best, yeah, and try to engage my cell member. And then sometimes I see because some members never turn up, then never tell you, and so you will feel even more discouraged in a way, yeah. So and as I reflected, right, I realized that I felt this way probably because I've been doing it for so long, and maybe I just wanted to rest and have my own time. Yeah, I'm just being very real, okay. Yeah, so but then at such moments, I would also then recall my calling, my purpose as a cell leader. Yeah, which is what? To shepherd and to love my sheep. And when I reframed my thought process, that means from just being like a job to like remembering that calling, that passion, right? That purpose. Okay, then it's no longer something that which I will just do week in and week out just to get it over with. Yeah. So I think one must also look at oneself, like why do you feel burnout? Why are you tired? Yeah, why do you feel that way? Is it because of the overwhelming circumstances of your life? Because maybe, I mean, let's be very honest, right? That as working adults, and if you have family, if you have young kids, there are challenges. These are real challenges, and actually, we actually do face we actually be tired and face such lethargy because after spending so much time at work, and we want to come home and we need to get spend time with our children, and we don't really have much time for ourselves to speak. And then there comes a part where let's say if we are called to serve whether in worship or in some other ministry, yeah. So I think the most important is really to come back to what is our perspective of serving, of service. Yeah. So for me, like for example, the perspective of serving in a worship ministry, what is it for us as worship ministry people? Is really to lead people to worship God and for people to have an encounter with God. So that after that service or in that cell group meeting, after that whether is it you are serving at cell group playing as a guitarist, musician, or leading worship, or in the church during a Sunday congregation, yeah, at the end of it, right, people must have an encounter with God, and that's our purpose, is to facilitate that platform for people to be able to worship God. Yeah. So how can we overcome this, right? My thought about it would be really to reflect on the issue. Okay, why do we feel that we're tired? Why do we feel like we are feeling tired or burnout? Yeah. Then remember our roles as Levites. I mean, in the context of worship ministry. So remember my role as a Levite, as a worship leader. Okay, and then recognizing that God has given us talents and it is a privilege to serve. Yeah, and then reframe our thought process. Yeah. I mean, it's our will, right? Yeah, it's the will that we have to do certain things. So we need to use our will to reframe our thought process. Yeah. But of course, I also like to add that if you really feel this way after a prolonged period of time, right, then it's good to speak with someone, like maybe a leader, a worship pastor, yeah, and perhaps maybe consider taking a break, right? Because of the circumstances of life. I mean, let's say the issue is really because you are so overwhelmed with so many things in your life. Yeah. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that does. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Derek. Okay. So since that is all of the Derek's question, I want to continue on with another question that was from our dear James Lowe. And he says in my post, what is your practice or preparation routine like, especially in consideration of your many different commitments like family, work, and other ministry? So what is your routine that you can share? Because seriously, in the matter of burnout are also many concerns that we are we are doing with many different commitments that we are involved in. So what is your routine, Boon Yeow?
Okay, thanks, James, for that question. So I'll make it very, personally, I once again, typically, right, I will prepare the song repertoire about 2 to 3 weeks in advance. I try to make it 3 weeks now, before my scheduled date for leading worship. The reason is basically I want to give sufficient lead time for Pastor Susan, okay, to review my song list, and then for her to give me feedback. And then, hey, no need to apologize, Pastor. Yeah, and to make the necessary changes in it. Of course, I always wish that when I submit to her, she will say, okay, pass. but the reality is that's not always the case lah. Yeah, which is also good lah. I mean, I get to realize, oh, okay, this one maybe can, okay, no. I mean, that's why I submit to her, right? Otherwise, I myself just I might as well just bypass her and then just send the rep out already. Yeah, but I found that over the years, it was good, and I really learned a lot through that process as well. Yeah. So after Pastor Susan has approved the song list, right, which is usually about the one and a half week maybe before the week leading up to the Sunday I'm leading worship. Yeah, I will work with the band leader, okay, assuming it's not Pastor Susan, okay, on the specifics of the songs and the flow of the repertoire. So the song list should ideally be sent out by the start of the week that I'm leading worship lah. So maybe the Monday or even Saturday, Sunday, then to the next Sunday that I'm leading worship. Yeah, so that the team has time to practice and prepare. Okay, then what we'll do is that I will be playing the songs which I've chosen, okay, which I've chosen to let, right? I'll play on Spotify, I'll put it on repeat mode times infinity lah, okay? 1 million times I'll repeat in the car, when I'm taking MRT, when I'm running, yeah. So, and I'll especially take note of transitional parts within the song. Yeah, the areas that are maybe more challenging or areas where there's a change in the transition music within the song and from song to song. Yeah, our frame of mind, I was thinking, okay, how will I do this? Yeah, and okay, so then the routine, right, will be my practice times are usually at night, yeah, when I come home, or when I'm in my office. I mean, I have the luxury of having an office to myself, and I can actually take out the guitar and then practice in the office. Yeah. And then what else will I do? I will so what I will do is also during the week when I'm going to lead worship, right, the Sunday, right, I will avoid eating spicy or heaty food. Okay. I mean, these are just very practical things because to me, right, I want to be I know my body well. If I eat spicy food, there is a risk that I may get sore throat. Yeah, and that will affect my ability to lead worship. So I try to make it a point not to eat spicy food lah. So if I eat mala xiang guo, I will maybe either wei la or no la lah, that kind of thing lah. But I try not to eat lah. I also realized that mala xiang guo is very oily and that caused me to have heartburn issues. Yeah. So yeah, it's things like this lah. So what else? I think also is okay. So to answer, I don't really answer the question, James, but the routine will be to have to plan in advance. That if you know that okay, that you're going to be leading at this date, then you have to quickly prepare maybe 3 weeks in advance. Yeah. So that you give yourself sufficient lead time to have contingency lah. But you never know, but sometimes in between, maybe your work suddenly increase, your workload. Yeah. Rather than wait until the second week before you send a rep, then or before you prepare a rep, then you will create a lot of pressure on yourself and also on Pastor Susan. Yeah.
I would like to make a statement also. Not that all worship leaders send their worship song list to me to vet. Not all of them. Okay, only some of them who felt they would like my input that I would go through with them. I have to apologize to Boon Yeow. Most of the time he sent to me, right? I will sit on it for more than a week because I have many other things to look into. And plus, to be honest with you, Boon Yeow, you're not the only one who sent this for me to vet. I have Keith who will send to me. Like today, I just received from Michael Lee. Then he want to discuss in detail how he want to lead his worship. You know, I have Amos also do send to me as well. So there are a few different worship leaders sending their worship rep to me to vet. So I will take a little bit of time because you know, because especially for Boon Yeow, he choose new songs. I will need time to look through the lyrics and things and see whether it can not only for Boon Yeow, of course, the rest of them with their new songs. I need time to listen it through and see whether that's my husband. Okay, so to see whether it is appropriate for our church congregation. So these are things that I have to look out for as well. So not everyone sent to me. So in case you all think, wow, I'm such a control freak, I must control all of you in your song list, I don't. Okay, thanks, Winya. We still have about 14 more minutes. I do have a few more questions. Okay, now I would like to pose to you a question from Trisha. Okay, the fourth question here, and Trisha asks, what are some difficult moments in the worship ministry and how did you resolve it?
So sorry, we got my children in the background. If you hear them, right, please pardon me. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so difficult moments. I also thought quite some time about this, and okay, I hope when I share this, I don't offend people, but okay, I'm just being authentic. Okay, but okay. First, I will share my personal issue. Okay. So one of the difficult moment, right, for me, right, is health related. So over the past few years, right, there were times I had encountered heartburn issues, okay, which required me to take deep breaths from time to time. Yeah, it's an issue that comes on and off, lah. Yeah, and sometimes it can get really bad, especially in the week for some strange reason, in which I'm scheduled to lead worship. Yeah, maybe it's a spiritual that I don't know. Yeah, so that's why I come to realize that also it's very important to pray over yourself, over your family. Yeah, when you're leading worship, cover them in prayer, because all these things can really zap you of your attention and confidence. Yeah. So where was I? Okay. So I will worry and I will wonder if I could still lead worship on that particular Sunday, because physically I wasn't in my best condition. It's a condition pertaining to me, lah. Okay, so it will sometimes affect my confidence when I lead worship. Yeah, because I don't know whether I can have enough breath, okay, to pull through the song. Yeah. But the amazing thing was that by God's grace, each time when I encounter such issues, right, I will still be able to lead worship and go through the entire 2 services without breathing difficulty. Yeah, I've learned. So how I've overcome this is that I've learned to entrust this issue to God and not to be so bothered by it. Why? Because as I reflected, He has always seen me through these difficult moments in the past. So I take reference that the victories that I've gone through with God, yeah, that every time when I have this problem, He always see me through during the worship set. Very interestingly, like one day before I could still be having issue, but when the actual day itself, hey, somehow, I can just do it. Yeah. And I don't think it's by coincidence or chance. So this is one difficult moment I have, and so I don't know whether sometimes you notice maybe I'm on stage. It's because there's this thing, but I think I also got to do. I realized that maybe it's about managing the lifestyle. So maybe I have to take note of the food I eat, yeah, or take precautionary measures. So maybe I would do my Ventolin, I would do my Serotype pass and my Ventolin sprays, yeah, to make sure that I get it under control. Because in the past, I was thinking, yeah, it's not really that important, but I think I've come to realize that it's important. If you need to do this, you need to take these measures. Yeah. Yeah. So another difficult moment, right, in the worship ministry was this is people related already. Yeah. So when there was a period of time when I was serving, and I just felt that there was some occasions where I had some confrontational issue with one of the team members. Not really confrontational, like some clash in ideas of how the song should be, or yeah, and I just felt that very challenged, and I felt that my egos were bruised, and I felt lousy because because musically I'm not that fantastic yeah. So but at the same time I was trying to be able to, I wanted to lead in a way that I don't have to worry so much about technicalities. But at the same time, when this happened, right, it draws my attention away from focusing on my worship leading, and my focus on God. And that was a struggle I went through a few of times. And for example, so whenever I was leading with that particular person, I would be very mindful of how he would think or react, and And it came to a point where I felt that it was not healthy for me. Because then my attention was focusing on like, oh, how can I sidestep this? Rather than focusing on leading worship, focusing on where I believe what God wants me to, where the Holy Spirit is leading me to go. And so I came to terms with this. I released forgiveness to the person who I had offended. Yeah, and I decided that I would just focus on the worship, and I'll just tell it in a way that is not. I mean, that is not. I'll tell it politely. I'll communicate this, and to communicate clearly what I would like to do. Yeah, and I realized that things have definitely improved much more. Yeah, and I no longer have that kind of burden. I feel that it's like I need to please that person. Yeah, my focus really is about pleasing God, and that's it. So it's my own. So what I'm saying is my personal struggle. Yeah, and it's about my own esteem, my pride if you can put it this way. It's about maybe a pride issue. Yeah, that I had to deal with. Thanks.
Okay. I just want to share to some of you who are not worship leaders here. To be honest with you, when you take on the role of a worship leader, there are many things that can happen. In fact, normally prior to the time that you are going to step on stage and lead worship, I think Ben will also identify with it. All the funny things that you can come across, suddenly the neck very painful kind of stuff. There are lots of real spiritual warfare that goes on. Yeah, because as a worship leader, we are not just standing on stage singing a good song, holding a nice note. We are actually worship warriors. Actually, we're warriors. Because when you worship, the devil will want to shut you out. The devils will want to make sure they snuff you out. They don't want you to stand. And they hate the sight of people rallying together to worship our great King. And so the first thing that it will hit onto will be the person who's doing the leading. So these are very common things that happen. What Boon has shared is very common. There were many moments he texts me, he's having reflux, and he's damaging his throat, and how he's going to sing. I remember Ben just recently texted me his neck, the head pain and things like that. And we keep each other in prayer. So is that important? Yeah, it is not a very glamorous role to be most of the time. There are a lot of warfare that is going on, raging even at the back of our home. There are times where, and I remember Boon long ago say wife and him quarrel or something like that. Very long ago, that was very, very long ago. So these are things that happen. Suddenly, small little matter, they quarrel, and then it affects your emotions and it affects you about worshiping God. So I think that is some of the difficult journeys that worship leaders had to pull through and grow up from it, and the learning of dependence of God. And of course, as a worship leader, it's not just you charging forward. It's a team of people that you work together with, their musicians, their vocals that you work with to charge forward in this battlefield. And as sad to say, not every battlefield you have fantastic soldiers around who agrees with you, and it can be very trying. And even for me as a worship pastor, I have to handle this kind of people, I have to handle as well, So it is not an easy task and not easy feat. So and there are a lot of prayers and a lot of tolerance needed in order to rally unity and prayers as well. So now we have about 6 more minutes. The last question for you. Okay, this question is from Keith. Okay, Keith asks you, in your many years of service, was there ever a time where your worship became a job to you? Okay, like something you just do week in, week out, just to get it over and done with. Yeah.
Hey, Pastor, just now I think I've answered this question already. Derek's
that's
question.
Derek's one. Okay. But that one is on burnout.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's quite similar to that question. Yeah.
You want to re-emphasize again?
Okay. Yeah. So basically, like I said, I have always felt a great sense of responsibility and privilege to lead worship. To me, it's never a job. Yeah. And so and it has not changed. This perspective has not changed since when I first started leading worship to know that my role as a worship leader, right, is to lead people into the presence of God. And the role of the worship ministry, right, members or Levites now, is to really lead people into His presence. And at the end of the service, people must know that, people must feel that they have had an encounter with God. I mean, that should be our role. And so to me, right, it is, I don't feel that it has become a job to me. Yeah. And even in regards to this question, I would think also it's also about the perspective of job. It's a job, let's say job meaning a secular job. If your perspective of a job is to just do things on a week in and week out and just to get it over and done with, then I would ask you what about spirit of excellence? Yeah, what about doing it, whatever we do, to do it to the glory of God? So it is about, once again, your thought, your mindset, which needs to shift. Yeah, that worship does not just become a job. Okay, service is not just a job. Yeah, but it's really something that we do, right, because it is an honor, it is a calling, it's a privilege. Yeah, and as we reframe that thought process, right, I believe, right, things will change for the individual, or at least for me Yeah, like when I felt that I don't feel like leading cell, then I remember, my calling, why did I become a cell leader? What is my purpose as a cell leader? Yeah, then I will be able to come back and to be able to recognize that it is not something to just get it over and done with. Yeah, very interestingly, actually, right, I tell you, for example, in leading cell, right, sometimes I may feel that very tired, don't feel like leading. Then after the cell meeting, right, I will feel refreshed. Yeah, I will actually feel charged up. I actually feel edified by my cell members, those who came Yeah, and I just feel like God just telling me that, you didn't want to lead. You said you were tired, but here I'm encouraging you. I'm refreshing you through people, through the community.
Okay, Ken. Now, maybe to answer that also is that most of our worship leaders are assigned to lead worship only once a month. Not like me, sometimes I have to lead twice or 3 times a month. Then it can really, to be honest with you, became a job. Well, it's my employment, and I think my biggest struggle, I think I can share this, I have to explain the fact that Boon leads worship once a month. He doesn't have to lead many times, in a month or on the church platform, but he does lead worship even cell, I believe. These are things that happen. Yeah, but for situation that I felt that this question that Keith had asked, probably he himself goes through that. Like today, last Saturday, he just led at a youth service worship, and this Saturday he's leading again because of Matthias, some family issues at Matthias. So he's leading 2 consecutive ones. It can be very, very trying. Yeah. So I think one thing is that it's always important that whenever you're not leading worship, I felt that it's always good to consistently worshiping the Lord on a regular basis. Like, you look at my piano behind me, pardon me, I've been sick. I have not been able to play the piano. I'm lying on the bed most of the time for the past 5 days, I'm just so tired. But most of the time, I will put effort to worship the Lord on my piano on a daily basis. And as you worship the Lord, songs will come from you. And that became the worship that the worship leader led on the stage. So these are ways that to not see as a job, but to see that what comes out from the time where you worship God, and these are the fragrance of worship that comes forth to bring the people into worshiping the Lord on a Sunday. Ken? All right, it's already 12, and I really appreciate Boon Yeow. Thank you all of you for your time. I hope you have learned something from Boon Yeow, and this session will be recorded. It's already recorded, so it will be placed on the YouTube link later. When I get better, I will put it onto a YouTube link and it will be shared out by Lavina. Okay, so do appreciate all of you for joining. I hope you have learned much from Boon Yeow. Thank you, Boon Yeow, for sharing. Thank you so much. So we will end the session here, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.